Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Photographer Academy. And I've got a special guest back with me, Jan Hammerstad. And we're going to be talking about jewelry, commercial photography, really, actually, with models and things, really. Just before we get into the talk photography and looking at some of the images for tonight, if you're not a member of the Photographer Academy yet, why aren't you? We're not a charity. But you can basically join for as little as 100 quid. And if you're not sure what the Academy is, basically go on to thephotographeracademy.com, scroll through, see the kind of thing that we've got there, click on something, it'll take you off to a page, whatever you're involved in. And then as far as being able to watch, you've got to be a member of the Photographer Academy to pretty much watch most of the things, but there is some free elements and you'll soon see them there so you can actually see them. But to join, you just kind of come up onto the top of the page, click on the Join Academy. That'll take you off onto the Join page. And you can see here, 12 months is 100 quid. And that gives you full access to all of our content, including any of the downloads, the assets like the posing apps, the lighting apps, Photoshop assets, as well as files as well for smarter objects, for special effects and everything else with it. Anyway, enough about me and more back to the point where we're going to be talking to Jan. So Jan, thanks for coming back so soon.
Oh, welcome. Yeah.
I said I'd be getting you back very soon, didn't I? Yeah.
And when we were talking last time, I mentioned sort of on the way that I was doing a little bit of jewelry shooting as well. And someone, I think at least a few of the people watching asked if we could do something about that as well. So that's why I thought, well, I better. Yeah.
Yeah. Jan, for the people who haven't actually kind of come across you or your work in the past, let's do a quick who you are and where you're based and your kind of a quick background and everything else. Is that okay?
Yep, fine. Well, I'm based a little bit outside of Copenhagen, Denmark. I have a great studio, a big studio, around 180 square meters. So I have a lot of room to do a lot of different things. I've been professionally taking pictures for the past 12 or 13 years, but I've been taking pictures. I've been, ever since I was 14 years old. I mean, I was bitten by this photography bug at a very, very early age. So I've done my part in the dark chamber and on analog films and stuff like that. Been through all that, and then for some reason I took a break from photography in my mid-20s, and when I started doing photography again because my son was gotten into an age where he was playing a lot of football, and so I became the football team photographer for my boy. At that time, the world had changed from an analog photography to a digital photography. So I went and bought a new digital camera at that point, and then I basically didn't look back. I've been using a lot of time on analog photography and development, but I just think that digital nowadays is so much easier, and I have a lot of techniques in my Photoshop for processing the pictures the way I want them to be processed. So, and for the last, probably 10 years, I've been doing a lot of commercial photography, especially portraits. About around 99% of all my pictures involve people. So I have very, very few pictures that doesn't include people at all. So I have a lot of experience in models, commercial models that are used to being on camera, and also a lot of people that are not used to being on camera as well. I have agreements with at least 4 Danish model agencies where I shoot their new faces. So generally young people that maybe have never been in front of a camera before, or maybe it's their second or third time. So a lot of those need a lot of instructions and guidings, and I always tell them that to me, photography is about acting. When you're in, especially when you're doing that kind of commercial modeling, it's basically about acting. You need to take on a role as this supermodel advertising this shirt, because I don't want, in those circumstances, I don't want to take your portrait. I want to take a picture that will sell this shirt if it's what we're going to sell. And the same with jewelry, as we are going to talk about today. We want to sell the jewelry. We want to make a good story about the jewelry, so that people watching the pictures will be able to get a good experience, feel good about themselves, wanting to have that kind of lifestyle, so that they will buy those jewelry that we are trying to advertise, basically.
Very good. Let's go on to the first image anyway.
Yeah.
Are you working with quite big companies, or are they more kind of local or fine craftsman kind of jewelers?
Actually, both. Of course, it depends a little on what you mean big companies. I'm not working with Cartier or stuff like that, but I'm working with the companies in Denmark that are all over Denmark and all over the Nordic countries, mostly at least. Me and my wife, we have a kind of a hobby when we are driving around the countryside in Denmark for the small towns. If there is a jewelry store, we always go there just to see if any of my pictures are there. And in 80% of the cases, there are some of my pictures in some of the local jewelry stores all over Denmark, basically. So, but I also work with, some very, very small, just startups that are trying to break into the market, and some people that are trying to use, other kinds of jewelry they make themselves, very small ones. But I prefer to work with the big companies. They have bigger budgets, and they are actually often a lot easier to talk into doing fun stuff, to be honest. Generally, the jewelry business is a very conservative business about their pictures. I think we've all seen, rings hold to the cheek like this, and everything is working around this area with a little bit of shoulder, and all of these poses is basically always what you see in if you go to any jewelry store, you will see 10 or 20 pictures looking basically like this, or it's very, very conservative. So sometimes I try to push my clients into doing something a little bit different. I've done a lot of those pictures, really a lot. So to me, it's also about trying to make something that's fun for me to shoot, so instead of just being at the old factory doing all the time, basically.
And often, if you inspire the client to do other things, you keep the client for a lot longer, isn't it?
Because, yes, I agree. But you need to build the trust before you can sort of start pushing them a little bit. In a little bit, I have a very good example of how I have managed to push one of my clients away from what they're used to doing. But at that time, we had been working for a couple of years together, so they had their trust in me, and I kind of knew what they wanted and maybe what they needed also. Yeah. The picture that's on screen right now is just to show that this is one of the few pictures that I do that are sort of really product oriented. Most of the jewelry shoots that I do involve people as well. I always have models holding the ring or the earring or the necklace or whatever it might be. But sometimes I also I do product shoots like this. And in this case, we were actually playing around with. We had a small. I don't know what you call it. A bucket filled with water that we held above between the light and the ring. So all of these small shadows that you see on the ring and on the fabric, they are caused by the small waves in the ripples in the water. Yeah. So I had an assistant holding a bucket of water with a clear bottom. So that the light was shining through the water and sort of to give this effect. And this was one of the fun things to do, actually, that we wanted to do something a little bit different. But other than that, all my pictures basically involves people in some way.
I think that's quite a good idea for somebody if they're just getting started, playing around with some fun jewelry.
Yeah.
Using things like a cup or even a glass tray or something like that, they can actually really create stuff. I know that a lot of jewelry is shot with kind of projected backgrounds because it's at a faux focus or project. And there's loads of little techniques because it's so small. You don't need a massive studio at all, do you? And things really.
I think the table this is shot on is about 50 times 50 centimeters or something like that. It's not bigger than that. So it's a really small area because everything is small when you're shooting jewelry.
What do clients think about reflections and things? They're usually kind of really bad with reflections. Do they like it all crystal clear and things? Any tips on that?
Yeah, well, it is the hard part. If you have rings, finger rings like this, for instance, where you have surfaces that are very, very reflectant, then you need to get the right angle because you will see me in some of the rings if I'm not on the right angle, or you will see parts of the studio as well. And we try to put a lot of effort into making sure that you don't see anything in the reflections that you shouldn't see. And if by any chance that you get a small something in there, it will be edited out afterwards. But when I do something like this, for instance, I take very, very much care that there are no reflections, at least not any reflections that shouldn't be there at all.
Once upon a time, I had a client who was, they sold mirrors. That's a nightmare client.
I've been shooting, disco balls. There are mirrors everywhere, and you simply cannot avoid seeing everything in those disco balls. I had to when I was shooting one of those, my entire studio I had to pack it up with black molten cloth on all sides, and then I was sort of shooting through a little hole in the black cloth just to make sure that there were no reflections at all. It was a nightmare. It took a very long time.
Shift. Anyway, so I've just moved on to the next image, which is let me just bring that live. The girl with the necklace.
Yes.
Back to front, a bit strange, or is that normal?
It's a very good example of the style that I like, because it's very desaturated, not very, but it is slightly desaturated in the colors, and it's very minimalistic in a way. This is what we, at least in the Scandinavian countries, call a Nordic design kind of thing, because it's very, very simple, very somewhat desaturated in the colors. And the idea of having her jacket backwards and on was kind of an idea that I had for a while. I thought we would try out. And then we had this necklace, which is actually from a very, very small jewelry with her own little shops trying to sell her own designs. And then I thought, we'll try to do this, because I knew that this model, who's actually a bit older than most models, she's almost 40 years old, which is way above what you usually see in modeling for jewelry. But I felt that she had a very good back and a very good neck for this. And then the idea of the necklace hanging like this, I thought it turned out very well in this case. So the idea was there from the start that it should be a little bit backwards.
And one of the reasons that we're on about a younger model, usually it's just to do with the skin quality, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's
it.
Yeah, and even with a model who's moisturized since the day she was born, age still will catch up on us no matter what. And that's so it's nothing ageist at all with it, and it's just the reality of it. And today, what do they like with skin smoothing and in Photoshop and the likes of, or do they avoid it? Are you allowed to do anything or not?
It actually depends a little on the client. Some clients want the natural skin. And to be honest, most of them then realize that the natural skin is very often not good looking enough for jewelry commercials. Because when you freeze the face or the hands of an individual in that, 1,000th of a second that the picture's taken, then you see all the small imperfections that you don't see when you're just talking to people face to face. And you will generally zoom in a little bit more than you would when you and I are talking, where we are not that close. We will not see all the small imperfections. But when it's frozen in that, thousandths of a second, then you see everything. And it's not because that she might have a bad skin that doesn't need to be pimples or anything like that, but just there is a lot of small imperfections that you usually don't like in jewelry commercials, because they take away some of the attentions that you want to put on the jewelry, basically. So most of my clients end up having some kind of retouch, and when we call it natural retouch, it's basically just to remove the big things, and then but in this case it's we did a little more. We did a little bit of smoothing of the skin as well, and I see in most of the pictures that we do this close up, we do a lot of Photoshop retouching afterwards to get it right.
And what kind of lens and kind of aperture do you like to use for this kind of image?
I have two cameras that I'm using. When I'm doing close-ups like this, I have a phase 1 medium format camera, and for that I'm usually using a 120 millimeter, which is also a macro, because then I get as close as I can. But it is a very slow camera to work with. It's a great camera. I really love using it, but it's very, very slow. So if you have models moving, it's almost impossible to time it to get the right picture with the phase 1 camera. So when I have moving objects, I use Canon. I have a C9 camera, and in those cases I usually use a 24 to 70 millimeters zoom lens, because it makes better. But I'm almost always working at an aperture 4. I'm very rarely using anything else. For some reason, for many years, I've always been stuck on aperture 4, especially for jewelry, but also for portraits. I find that it has the good, how do you say, softness to it. And the problem that I get into with aperture 4 sometimes, with jewelry especially, is that if you have a necklace like on this picture and also an earring on this picture, both can't be in focus at the same time.
No.
And that sometimes causes me a little bit of a problem, because the client will say, well, why isn't that in focus also? Well, we should probably have been at aperture 16 or 22 or something like that, and I just don't do that, to be honest. So most of my clients have learned by now that if they want the necklace, then I will focus on the necklace, and then if they want the earring, then I will focus on the earring, because I think they agree with me. I hope that's why they come back to me, at least, that it does provide a softness to the picture that is nice. I rarely go to lower numbers than 4, mainly because then you get a lot of focusing issues on the jewelry, because sometimes the jewelry, if you have a necklace, for instance, you want to see as much as you can of the necklace in focus, not just the center. And then if you go to 2.8 or even lower in number, then it gets really hard and to get it right. So 4, for some reason, has always been my number.
I'm not sure if you know, but my business name is F4 Pro.
Oh yeah, well, right up my league. It should be mine as well. At one point, I used Capture One for my editing, and I filtered out that I could tell around 80% of all my pictures are taken at f4. So I'm up right there with you, Mark.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
Cool. Our next image, I really like this one.
Yeah, it was actually one of my favorites as well. This is one of the times that we went out of the studio and went to the beach to do some shooting of rings, finger rings, and this just came out of because the model was in a break. She was just sitting on the sand, playing a little with with the sand, and then I like to do my shooting. Well, I have two modes. Either it's very, very staged, so that you will sit in exactly this position, do exactly this, or I like to do it very, very sort of spontaneous. And this was an example of very spontaneous. But she was sitting, having a small break, and she had a lot of finger rings on. And then I said to her, "Well, turn to me and just pick up the sand and let it just fall through your fingers." And then she did this, and I think we have maybe 5 or 6 pictures looking like this, but this one felt really nice because the hands were in focus, and she was sort of her face was okay in the background as well.
Yeah.
And this is why I like the f4. I'm pretty sure this one is taking at aperture 4 as well, because I still get the softness of the background. I can still get crystal sharp in the front, and then tone it out in the back. And I like this duality because you can always, when I see a picture like this, I hope that people are thinking, "Oh, nice rings, and what's going on in the background?" That's the idea of doing something like this.
At the end of the day, in a commercial sense, advertising photographer, you're there to sell the lifestyle as much as the product, isn't
it? Yes, exactly. That's
and this has a real lifestyle boho kind of feeling. You believe she's on the beach. She could have been in studio, but you would believe she's on the beach.
Yeah, exactly.
And everything about the lifestyle is there. If you were beginning to put a price range on a product, you and I could probably put a price range on a product.
Yeah.
Because the images are designed to sell to a certain type of client, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's actually a very important point, because when I do commercial shoots, and especially for jewelry like this, there are 2 ways to enter into this. You can either do it like a product shot, which is basically like the first picture we saw with the ring on some cloth or fabric. Or you could do the style. I mean, we want to sell the adventure. We want to sell this kind of bohemian lifestyle, and you will see in some of the other later pictures that I'm very keen on selling the lifestyle, basically. This, in my opinion, that's what should sell the product, and often does.
Let's face it, they're going to stick their products down on a light box. It's going to be scanned soon. They're going to throw it into AI, and a product photograph is going to be a thing of the past, isn't it?
Yeah,
for the quick social images, we're stuffed.
Yes.
So really, what I mean by that is that we're our end is nigh, as it were. But as a commercial photographer, when you put in your advertising spin on, an art director will be able to instruct AI eventually to create this type of image.
Yes.
But it's going to have to source that image to begin with, to feed that idea through and things. Really, it's
I agree. Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting development in product photography and commercial photography over the next decade, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
This is a very
good question before we go to this image.
Yep.
What color is gold?
Yeah, exactly. That's true. It's and I could ask you the same. What color is silver?
Silver. Yeah,
because it's a great dilemma, actually, especially because you and I, we are used to looking at colors, and my wife hates watching old movies on the television with me, because I'm always commenting on the color of the skin, and in some cases, if they have digitalized an old film, if they didn't get the colors right, it will alternate between 2 colors all the way, and it drives me crazy. And my wife can't see it at all. So I think we watch colors in a different way than normal, ordinary people at least do.
There is only one color. There is only one color. It's grey.
Yes,
As long as we understand what color grey is, pretty much everything else is around that, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's
But,
true.
cool. Nice image. Let's talk about this.
This is actually a very good example of what we were talking about, setting the style, the lifestyle that you want to sell, basically. This is from a shoot where the client had some champagne-colored diamonds in all of their jewelry. So the entire theme of the shoot, of the entire campaign, was champagne and party, basically. So we had a huge party in the studio, an entire day shooting. There's a lot of gold glitter in the background and a lot of champagne, and we did the champagne tower with champagne pouring down all the glasses, and we had these two girls. The one is a Ukrainian model, and one is the Polish model, actually, that we brought into Denmark. Well, the Ukrainian one is actually living in Denmark now, so it was a little bit easier. But they were the right fit for this campaign that we wanted to do. And then this is a close-up of one of the pictures, because we wanted to capture the rings and the bracelets. I don't know if you in England call it a tennis bracelet, but in Denmark, at least, we call it a tennis bracelet when you have a diamond bracelet like this.
Yep.
And then, so we wanted to set the focus that this was sort of exclusive. It was a high-end jewelry. These are actually very expensive, these kinds of jewelries. And to be honest, in the studio, when we do shoots like this, there is a lot of security as well. All the doors are locked, and all the models are checked whenever they leave the studio to go to the dressing room. They are checked to hand over the jewelry, and especially when you have small ear clips with diamonds in, because they are easily forgotten. So there is a lot of security going around, because I think we have maybe in a shoot like this, we had, I think, around 50 carats of diamonds, all in all of the. So there's a lot of value in here. So they are very, very particular about all of these jewelry. But this also leads me to tell about the next picture, because we did this campaign during an entire day with this kind of shooting, basically the same. At the end of the day, I told the client, I have an idea for a picture, but I know that it's a little bit different from what we usually do. I had been shooting for this client for 4 years or 5 years at the time, so I knew their style a little bit, well, quite well, actually. And then I took one of the models, the Ukrainian models, Sana, and I put a champagne glass on top of her foot like this, and then we put one of these tennis bracelets around her ankle, and I took this picture, and I said to the client, I'm not sure if you're gonna like it, but let me try. And they were sort of, yeah, okay, let's try. So I did the picture, I edited it, and I sent it to them, and the response was, maybe it's a little bit too sexy. There's a lot of legs in here. It's not really what we're looking for. And then I said, okay, perfectly fine. No problem. If I like this picture, if you will allow me to have it in my portfolio, then it's perfectly fine with me. No problem whatsoever. About 3 weeks later, they called me and said, well, we took this picture along some of the other pictures to our dealers and showed it to them, and all of the dealers were very, very excited about this picture. So we actually want to use it as the main image for our new campaign. And I was really happy with that, because I actually think it's a very nice picture, and it's very different from all of the other jewelry pictures that you see around. And I know that the reason why the dealers were very happy with this was exactly because it was different, because it sticks out. When you go to a jewelry store and you see this picture, you will immediately feel, oh, this is different. What's going on here? So they started asking questions about this brand. So actually, this picture is in a lot of Danish jewelry store, just with the company logo on lower right, and it's also hanging on the wall in my studio. So it's and actually, to be honest, at the moment I'm having an exhibition in the northern part of Denmark, and this one is also in this exhibition because this is one of my favorite pictures, to be honest.
Excellent.
But I think it's a good example of how you can sort of push some of your clients if you get the trust, then you can move them in another direction, and you can help them develop their business as well.
Did one of my friends, Andy Krujek, he's a commercial photographer, but he's really known for his hair photography. Mm-hmm. And he always used to say that the reason that he always did his own projects at the end of the shoot was to inspire the clients for the next year.
Yeah.
That often they're so regimented into what they need today, they're forgetting about tomorrow.
Yeah.
And even if he shoots what he believes they should kind of have tomorrow, all they're really doing is confirming they're going back to him. It's that aspirational thing to, again, isn't it? It's that kind of tying the client in that you can deliver a lot more, but it's really down to you, you know?
Agree.
But no, I love it.
Yeah.
Our next image of the couple.
Yeah. This is a company that mainly sells wedding rings. Actually the same wedding ring that was on the very, very first picture you saw on the fabric. And you can probably tell that it's you want to sell the idea of a gorgeous wedding, but if you want to see the gorgeous gown and all the, then it's very, very hard also to see the finger rings on the picture. So a lot of what I do for wedding rings is more like sort of the adventure, the feeling that you want about what's going on. So in this case, we went to a small castle about an hour from Copenhagen, and we got to use most of the castle for the shooting that we were doing. And this was sort of the ballroom where we did some very nice pictures of this. One of the fun things about this picture that very few people know is that the color of the curtains in the windows were orange when we shot it. But when I saw the final pictures, I felt orange curtains were, so it didn't match. It really didn't match. So I recolored all the curtains to the same color as the walls to make it look a little more. They took too much attention because of the orange. And about a year later, I went to this castle again, just to see. I was there scouting for some locations actually, and I went to the same room, and they had changed the curtains from orange to the exact same color that I had changed it in the photo. And of course they had seen my picture, so I'm hoping that they saw that this was better.
I'm not sure if it's a good idea for a Dutchman to remove orange from anything.
No. That's probably true.
That shouldn't be a thing, should it? Kind of, you know.
But this is a photo from the same session, actually, on the same castle and the same girl. But now, what I try to do, because finger rings are so difficult to get in the big picture, then I always shoot, the big scenario with the gown and all of the scenarios, and then I go in close. And so we always have pictures that are sort of big scenario, and then we have pictures close up so that you can actually see the rings that we want to advertise. And this is just basically a normal portrait, but it's taking to show the rings that were actually in the picture that you just saw before. So I try to have a little bit of both when we do settings like this. And because I also do a lot of portraits, this is basically a portrait. The problem is, where do I put the focus? Because when I do the portraits, it would be on the eyes, and it will always be on the eyes. And in this case, it actually is on the eyes, but I also need to get some kind of focus on the rings. So I need to put them somewhere in the picture where your eyes will naturally follow it, go to when you look at the picture. So that's why you basically always see, hands near the face like this, because it's a natural place to look. When you start at the eyes and then you follow the way down, and then you see the rings. And they are not in focus in this picture, but I convinced my client that they didn't need to be, because they had some, real products, pictures of the rings themselves, so that they could use in their websites and brochures and stuff like that. So
do you choose a model specifically for a hand first before face, or is it a combination?
It depends a little. If I know that it's going to be mostly finger rings, then we go for a hand model, basically, because then a lot of my pictures, I don't think I have any to show you in this selection, but a lot of my pictures is sort of half face. If you're holding like this, I would sometimes crop it like this, so that you will not see the entire face.
Yeah.
And for those cases, the hand is just enough. Then the hand just needs to be very nice. But in most cases, we go for the general look of the model. Specifically, yeah. I have clients that want very Nordic types, and then we go for the blonde, light-skinned kind of girl. And then I have especially one client that tend to go a little bit towards the darker models. He's actually very keen on the Ukrainian models, because they have for some reason they have a little bit of a Nordic look, but then they have dark hair. At least some of them do. The Ukrainian models that you saw before, she's a very good example of she can look very Nordic, but then she has very dark hair that sort of takes it a little bit away from being too Scandinavian. But so to answer your question a little bit shorter, most of the time we look at the face and the figure, and sometimes we look at the hands.
Because an exceptional hand model can be very expensive.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah,
huge money.
Yeah. I have, even for non-jewelry products, if I have, Lego, the Lego blocks. I have been shooting not for Lego, but something like that, at least. I won't name a competition, but it's something close like that, where we just need, a hand to pick some blocks from a box, and it's very, very specific to get, the real nice hand. Probably just my hand in this camera, it looks awful just trying to pick something. You need someone with very, very specific long fingers to make it look good. I mean, it doesn't mean that it needs to look right, but it needs to look good, because you need focus not on the hand, you need focus on the brick that you're picking up.
Very good. So our next image.
Yeah, this is also just basically we're setting the atmosphere for a couple in love, and then you have a strong focus on his finger ring, which is sort of a signature finger ring, not a typical wedding ring or anything like that, but a monogrammed finger ring for a guy. And in this case, we were trying to advertise male finger rings, which is much more difficult than female finger rings. I mean, some of us wear wedding rings, but that's basically it for most guys. But signature rings, at least in Denmark, I don't know how it is in outside of that, but signature finger rings is sort of becoming slowly a little bit of a thing over here. I see more and more men wearing them. And in this case, we wanted still to, it would be nice if the girl who is in love with the guy bought him the ring.
That's it.
So that's why this is set up like it is, but it's basically an advertise for this signature ring.
The great news is when you're doing cropped images like this, you can have a good looking guy with somebody else's hand.
Yes, it's true. It's true. Not in this case, but you're true. It could be, yeah. And you won't believe the things that's going on in the back here, because it's just, there's a lot of things going on here.
Yeah,
So,
it's really great. And the coloring is very, very similar throughout the images. That's what you're on about. This kind of tone, isn't it, that you're on about? Yeah.
I not intentionally, but I sort of discovered over the time that I tend to use a little bit desaturated yellow colors on most of my pictures. I think the next one you will see are not that in that style, but still the skin is sort of in that area.
Yeah.
This is also an example of how you can you can try to have a little bit of fun when you're working with clients that you know. This is a brand that does all kinds of jewelry. Basically, on this you can only see a finger ring, but they also have bracelets and necklace and other things as well. But we wanted to do Alice in Wonderland theme for this shoot, and this was actually the one what you was telling before about ending with something that will sort of take you to the next shoot. This is actually also a good example of this, because on the previous shoot for this client, I had shown them a dress that I had just received from a dress designer in Finland that I was going to shoot. And this dress was a lot of flowers everywhere, was very sheer, see-through fabric, but a lot of flowers sort of covering where you needed things to be covered, to basically.
Yep.
And they saw this dress because it just arrived when we were shooting, and one of the jewelries thought, oh, this was very nice, and all of the flowers, and it was very. And then a couple of weeks later, she called me and said, this dress inspired me so that when we do the next shoot in a couple of months, I want it to be Alice in Wonderland theme with a lot of paper flowers. So we actually, all of the flowers you see in the background, the paper flowers that we did, and they're about, some of them are up to 1 meter in diameter, that we had sort of made by hand, because we couldn't find anyone that, well, we find some, but they were very expensive. So we thought we will do them ourselves. So we made a lot of paper flowers and we hung them all over the studio. And of course, there are some strings that have been removed afterwards and cleaned up a little bit somewhere. I think the one on the right side of her is actually on a small stand in the background, which has been removed. So it looks like they are just hanging everywhere. So we did an entire campaign based on these flowers, where she was sort of running in between the flowers and giving this adventurous theme to it. It doesn't really look like Alice in Wonderland, but it inspired by that, at least.
Very lovely. Lovely image.
I know the next picture you're going to show is actually from the same series also, because we wanted it to be, a little bit different, a little bit adventurous, and there's a lot of flowers on the floor. There's a single finger ring on her finger in the middle of, and you probably won't notice it until you start exploring the picture, because there's so much happening here. First of all, it's upside down. You see very, very few pictures upside down, actually, especially in the jewelry industry. And the hair has been arranged, and the fabric of her shirt has been arranged, and so this was one of the campaigns where I was allowed to play. Because we had set the scene as we wanted to do something adventurous in a how to say, a very pale color scheme, sort of not too bright colors. Yeah, exactly. And then so we wanted, and a lot of flowers, and basically Alice in Wonderland theme all over. So this is this was a fun shoot to do.
And lighting wise, do you have a particular kind of style in studio that you want to shoot with?
I like very large umbrellas a lot.
Reflective or shoot through?
I depends a little. I'm actually quite on the pictures you've just seen. I'm quite sure. Well, I know that I used one umbrella, which was a reflector umbrella, but with a
Baffle?
sorry,
Diffuser on the front.
yeah, exactly, a diffuser on the front. A 180 centimeter umbrella, and then to soften it up a little bit on the other side, I have also a 180 centimeter but shoots through wide umbrella on a lower power, just to soften it up a little bit, because I like the shadows coming from the big reflector umbrella. But it needs, in my opinion, it needs to be. It's too harsh if it's just the silver lining of the umbrella. So I need the diffuser. Definitely needs the diffuser, and most of the time I also use another light on the other side of the model to even out the shadows just a little bit more.
A softbox at times can be almost too soft, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And that specular, that sharpness of light,
yes,
is something that we need for sharpness, for contrast within an image, isn't it?
I totally agree. Yeah.
As a portrait photographer, obviously we're trying to soften skin, soften the shadow, soften the wrinkle, isn't it? That's why by default you go for a big softbox, whatever it is. But in a commercial photography, you tend to go for a little bit more of a specular, if not a very strong contrast light. It tends to be a popular kind of choice, isn't it?
And I often, especially when I'm doing clothes, I get a lot of requests for doing sunlight in the studio, and to be honest, well, you can easily do hard shadows and hard light it's very easy, but to get the exact effect of sunlight is actually really hard in the studio. So I tend to, if I do sunlight, I'm always having some kind of second light, evening out the shadows just a little bit, because they are, even if you're maybe if you're in the southern Europe, you will get very dark shadows, but at least here in Denmark, when the sun is out, we still have some texture in the dark areas. It's very rare that it's white and black. And so I usually always have. I really love my 180 centimeter wide shoot through umbrella, because I actually use it a lot for softening shadows in a lot of shoots.
The difference being the eye corrects it for us, isn't it? This is where in the technical, the photographer, commercial photographer, knows that we need to open shadow. We very rarely are going to open a shadow in post-production. We will open it in lighting, because then it's consistent throughout and it's controllable, isn't it? Whereas people who are using, like some speed light or whatever it is, and they think, well, this is actually how it would look. In fact, the reality is, like you say, there's some ambient fill to the shadow going on, and your eye is compensating even more. So you don't even realize how dark a natural shadow is outside, but your eye is opening up the shadow for you. So when you look at it of just harsh light, it looks wrong, and that's why we need to open up the shadow, kind of
exactly
thing.
And to be honest, I do a lot of workshops in Denmark as well, and this is one of the hard parts of having to tell people, or at least to have people realize that it's going to be different, and that your eye is so much better in capturing all the details in all the entire spectrum of lights than your camera is, and then some people have a hard time understanding that. And to be honest, when I started out doing commercial shoots, I didn't really realize that as well. I did a lot of post-production shadow lifting and stuff, and then you gradually sort of start, well, I could do this better. I mean, I could do it in the camera to make it even better, so that I need to retouch less and do less post-production. So to me, it was sort of, it has come around to that. I realized that during the past years.
It's you know, but you learn technique, isn't it, really? And then you understand with technique that if you tweak this or you tweak that, like some commercial photographers prefer, I should say, like a reflective fill, whereas I'll always go for a flash fill. And that's just different. It's just the different ways that you work, isn't it? If you're trying to evenly fill a shadow across the plane of X, you've got to use flash fill, because you might be photographing a room, and you've got to have as much detail in the shadow area of material on the 12 feet to center as you do in center, and it's how you kind of lift all that together. And we all work in different ways. That's the key thing with it. But in, you know, I'm a little bit worried about the future of commercial photography in technique, because, oops, sorry, I just knocked my microphone. And the reason being is that there's this new generation that is just, oh, we'll fix it in the post-production. And that's that kind of, oh, no, do your job first and you're going to get paid more. You know, and it's not about how many shots you can get per hour. It's about how perfect that shot is in the hour. Like when I'm photographing food at a restaurant, I'm probably shooting in a 5-hour day. I'll shoot, I don't know, say 12 or 13 dishes. Now my friend will only shoot 4. That's all he does. And the client knows it. I don't know what he does with all the other time, but he only shoots 4 shots and that's it. And his clients go, they know what he does. That's it, you know? But anyway, last image.
This is this was a little bit challenging, because the client came to me and said, we've heard you so many times talk about doing something different. So we want to try to do something different. And we have this idea that we want to use a lot of shadows in your pictures. And then when you come to a photographer and say we want to use a lot of shadows, then I start thinking, you know, hard light and, you know, a little from the angle light from the side, so we get more dark here. And then no, we want to only have light on specific parts of the image. I said, okay, so we're talking, you know, gobos kind of thing. So I had to break. I have 2 gobos that I usually use for backgrounds and stuff like that. But in this case, it came very natural to use those for, you know, use small stripes of lights or small rings of light. And this is actually how this is done. And to be honest, when I was looking at this in the studio when we were shooting, I was sort of, I'm a little bit afraid if this is going to turn out like they wanted to. But they were sort of, we want it darker. And to me, you know, a lot of her is underexposed, and it's way off the charts, underexposed. And I try to, you know, turning up the lights a little bit to get more. She's actually wearing a very nice dress. So I was trying to, you know, turn off the light so that you could see her dress a little bit more. And they was like, no, darker, and all the way darker. So at the end, we ended up shooting a lot of an entire campaign like this, which is actually this picture is a little bit secret because it hasn't been public in Denmark yet. So this is a first off. They are going to launch it in October, this campaign, and all of the images are in this kind of style, very, very, very dark. This very beautiful, very great model is you can hardly see her in some of the pictures because it's so focused on the jewelry that we want to show, and then the background gets this kind of greenish gray, which was actually also a little bit of a problem because they had seen one of my pictures I had done a couple of years ago, where the background was greenish in color, but between you and me, it was just because I had, changed the white balance of the picture, because it was actually plain gray background, but it fitted the picture very well, and they wanted the exact same kind of greenish background, but they still wanted the skin to be in the right color, which now we have a dilemma, basically, because I was changing the white balance too much on the background in the old picture. So it caused for, it took a little bit of post-processing to get the right background color for this one as well. But it ended up like this, and the client was happy. And when the client is happy or actually excited, then I'm also very happy.
Very good, Jan. Absolutely brilliant, amazing images there, and I'm so glad you had the time to actually come back again. And I promise we won't put this live till October, or the end of anyway.
Oh, you're welcome to. No problem.
I've got a couple of questions anyway, if you don't mind, before we go. But guys, if you'd like to actually see more of Jan's work, obviously head over to his Purple Port. Just search on Hammerstad, Hammerstad, and in the same breath, then you can actually search on Jan Hammerstad. That's Jan, of course, over on the Instagram as well with it. And if you want to see the commercial website and things, really, you can go over to Hammerstad Photography and things. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So where's the future of jewelry photography, do you think, for the commercial photographers of tomorrow? Do you think it's still going to be there, or is the likes of AI and all that stuff kind of start to take it away?
I think it's still going to be there, because I know that AI is moving in quite fast, and we've seen campaigns based on AI models as well by now. At least with the clients that I have, I don't see any tendency for them to move towards IA, because they like the human touch of the pictures as well. I mean, to be honest, to the client, it's also great fun to be in the studio and see what's going on and meet the models, and sort of they feel that you should realize that, especially jewelry, that's a craft. I mean, you're handcrafting your jewelry, so you have sort of a personal relation to the jewelry, and therefore you also feel that if you have a personal relation to the picture, it sort of adds to the value of what you're selling, basically. So I don't fear AI at all. I know that it is something that we need to be aware of, and I have taken several AI classes just to prepare myself for what's going on, and I'm sure that, and I can even see that now in Capture One they are including, and in Photoshop as well, they are including AI in a lot of procedures, and yeah, it does make life a little bit easier for us in some. I mean, if I wanted to remove, a scar, or if a model forgot to take off her watch or something like that, it's so easy to remove it nowadays with AI. But going all the way to using AI models, I still think we are hopefully it's never going to happen, but at least a decade or two away from that actually happening. I hope.
How long did it take you to really develop your commercial kind of clientele? And any advice for photographers who are looking to go down more of a commercial route?
It took me quite some years to develop it. I think it maybe took 4 or 5 years to get to the stage where I can live off it. And that is, to be honest, I think that's also because I started out quite late in life doing commercial photography, because the absolutely most important thing is networking. Not just photographer to photographer. That's always nice to talk to other photographers about what they're doing and learning, but if you need clients, you need to network with models, with makeup artists, and potential clients. Even though you are not shooting for them at the moment, you need to start talking, and you need to go out there. And to be honest, at my age, at least in Denmark, and I think it's the same in England as well, a lot of the connections are made at parties, especially during, for instance, Fashion Week, where the modeling agencies have parties for their models and their clients and so on. And to be honest, I've gotten too old to go to those parties, so I don't get to meet clients the same way anymore. And especially in the fashion industry, which I also do a lot of, there is sort of a tendency that you use the photographer that you met the last. I mean, the newest photographer you met, that's the one you're using because, oh, he was a nice guy, we had a drink, and so on. So loyalty is not such a common thing in fashion photography, at least. I find that in jewelry photography, it's much better with loyalty because maybe they are a little more conservative. If you deliver a good product, they will come back to you, and they will, and you will probably together be able to develop new ideas. So I think networking is essential to doing photography business.
I met one of my biggest clients actually at a breakfast meeting.
Yeah,
I was invited by my bank to listen to a guy, and I didn't really want to be there, but my wife said, "You've got to go."
Yeah. And
I went, and I sat next to a lovely lady who's retired now, Margaret Wadley.
Yeah.
And she gave me a lot of money over the next 3 years.
Exactly, yeah.
And it was just because she said, "What do you do?" And I went, "I'm a photographer."
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, I'm needing a photographer."
Yeah.
Have you got a card?
Yeah.
And I went, "Well, just by coincidence, I do, but I don't usually carry one." And I said, "Better still," I said, "Do you have a card? And I'll get my wife to get in touch with you, because she's much more organized than I am, and she loved me for admitting it." and hence began a lovely relationship with a wonderful woman and a very large client.
Yeah.
Well, Jan, thanks so much.
Big customers I met at my fitness center. So you never know where you're going to meet your clients. So that's also one of my life rules: always be nice.
Very true.
Because then you will get business if that's what you want.
I hope so.
Good.
Thank you very, very much. And you know what's going to happen. I'm going to be bringing you back again and again and again.
No problem.
You know why? It's because there's so many commercial photographers who won't talk about commercial photography.
Well, I love talking about my work, and as I told you, I also do workshops, and I have sort of a principle that I have no secrets whatsoever, because even if I tell you everything that I'm doing, you will never make the same pictures because you have your own style, or even if you're new at this, you will develop your own style, and then I have maybe given you some techniques and some hints that will get you started faster.
Yeah, I learned an expression when I was in the Boy Scouts many years ago called "pass it on."
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
That's it. That's life. It's pass it on. Whether it's to your kids, your grandkids, people that you meet in the street, pass it on. Whatever you pass on will come back to you, kind of thing. You know, and it really works. Thank you, Jan.
Well,
see you soon, mate.
See you.
You're a star. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Bye.